All right, that was Credit 101. And in the interest of time in these uncertain times, I'll be presenting a summary. Summary: credit has been redefined. Unfortunately, debt has not. And now we'll quickly move on to our next panel. Let me just pull it up and see what it is here. Oh, wonderful. Okay, throw another log on the fireplace for another fireside chat. A global view on changing trends of consumer behavior and payments from industry leaders who have seen it all. So please join me in welcoming on stage Matthias Setzer, the Global Director of Payments Partnerships Facebook, and Anupam Pahuja, the VP, India, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa for PayPal. The panel will be moderated by Sagar Saxena, the Senior Director of Enterprise Marketing for Razorpay. Clap in your home and welcome them on stage. Hey, Sagar.
Hey, Kanan.
Hi, man. Looking forward to the panel? Excuse me for a second while I disappear.
Thank you, Kanan. Firstly, thank you so much, Anupam and Matthias, for doing this. Welcome to FTX. Welcome all of you who are watching us from home. We wanted to make sure that we get together and discuss about the global trends in fintech. Without that, any event is incomplete. And this year, back in our homes, we actually can get good amount of time to contemplate and see how things are happening outside. And that's where we've got people from Facebook, from PayPal, and good that both of you you folks already know each other. So that's one thing where we will probably try and touch base on. But quickly, just to throw the first question out, we cannot just ignore the thing which has happened, which is the entire pandemic. So obviously, keeping that in mind, probably the first question would be the most difficult one, or maybe the most elaborative one. But what are the challenges and opportunities that you folks see on the consumer behavior side, and probably during these times, how is that thing changing? And maybe we'll just make it a very open-ended thing. We can probably try and touch base on the demographics, the insights from money management point of view. So throwing this off to Anupam to start with.
Sure. Hey, Sagar, thank you for having me. Really appreciate what you guys are doing. Really helps put India on the center stage with the conferences like this. It's kudos to you and to the Razorpay team. Yeah. So in terms of opportunities and threats and challenges, if you will, I mean, it's quite clear that digital payments are now absolutely a necessity. Because whether if you look at from a consumer perspective, it's a fear of germs by touching currency, or just the fact that most economies around the world have gone into lockdown. So you really cannot go to a local store to buy something, in most places. So I feel that's one major trend that we're seeing. The second piece we're seeing is that most merchants, whether they be in India or abroad, have to and are building a clear online presence, right? Whether you go to a restaurant, for example, I'm in Singapore, people don't want to touch menus in a restaurant because of the germs left behind by the previous customers. So all the menus are now digitized. You have a QR code on your phone, you click on the QR code, and that's how you look at the menu. So there is a clear shift from brick and mortar traditional way of doing things to the online way of doing things. The third thing is really, which is not as good as we would have all liked, is the merchants that are hurt most in this world today because of COVID are the MSMEs. The large merchants have the pocketbooks and our ability to survive, but it is so sad to see restaurants being shut down, small businesses being shut down just because they don't have the ability to contend with such a disastrous change. And I think these are the backbones of most economy, the MSMEs. And we all have to do our part to prop them up as we move ahead. There are a lot of other trends, but I will stop there and let Matthias also chime in here. And then maybe we can circle back and I'll give you some more details.
Sure. Matthias, over to you.
Indeed, everything Anupam said, right, is something we're observing as well. And I would say on top, this is a study we've done in 17 countries, more than 4,000 companies participating. 80% of those, almost 80% of those, now manage their business a lot more digital. And this is from payments to the back-end side of things. As Facebook, we're seeing a lot of things. For example, the remote work. We're one of the first companies having to close the office, responding and sending people home. And remote work usage is a new thing, right? This is never going to go away completely. And the usage of tools like that is way higher than before. We're also seeing this across different segments in the population, like older population who may have been a little more conservative in using those. For example, new digital payment methods are happening, right? And there is a fascinating number of trends that got very much accelerated from education to work habits to commerce. And what Anupam said is also true, right? So a lot of small businesses are struggling. And it is our responsibility to provide them with the right tools and with the right infrastructure, sometimes even with a little bit of money. I know Facebook, the PayPal has been very generous in this direction. We did something at Facebook, right? Is absolutely needed and important. So this is the times of crisis, but also times of opportunities.
Sure, very well put. I think Anupam, you very clearly mentioned that even the basics of the things are changing everywhere. We actually see the QR code based menu almost everywhere now. So given that these times are changing at a very rapid pace, and Matthias, you also mentioned that it's the time when there would be a lot of opportunities. Is there any specific sector at a global level that you folks see doing really well in terms of the opportunities that have come?
Yeah, I think if you're pointing to me, Sagar, I'll start maybe, and Matthias, you can chime in. Clearly, and it is visible, I think, to everybody. So, and I will talk about the ones that are quite visible, and then I'll talk about the ones that one may not necessarily think about. So the ones that are quite visible are really anything that to do with collaboration, right? I mean, if you look at Zoom or Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth, right? These are just through the roof, the way the numbers have picked up there.
Facebook Workplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. So social engagement, right? I mean, tools such as Facebook or WhatsApp, right? There you go, Matthias, have gone through the roof, right? Platforms that allow on demand of anything have really picked up. So whether it's on demand delivery of groceries or on demand delivery of anything, really have really picked up. And the other obvious ones would be gaming, right? People are at home. What are they going to do? So they're going to play games, right? Or they're going to go on their social network. So we've seen that. A couple of other areas that one may not think of as much as edutech, as an example. We've seen a big uptick in the edutech space. Another one is really telemedicine. These have gone up 2x, 3x over the last few months. If you think about it quietly, then you'll realize, oh yeah, it sort of makes common sense, but it's not on top of people's mind. And I think what Matthias talked from a customer segment perspective, we're definitely seeing the older segment. There's actually a name we have coined for it, the silver tech generation. Coming in and using digital ways and online ways of transacting with each other. Whether it is you speaking to, like, my parents are in India and I'm in Singapore, spending time with them on Zoom. As a matter of fact, it's my mother-in-law's birthday tonight. So we will, she actually taught her how to get on Zoom and use those kinds of things. So we're seeing increasingly the older generation also pick up the technology and tools.
No, very much
Matthias?
so, right? Now, this is when we have published those data, right? Like peak volume on a WhatsApp for calls and video, which we may have seen on the New Year's Eve, for example, can now be daily volume, right? And obviously the usage of those tools has gone up and will continue to grow, and we're seeing this all across the globe. We're now seeing, as you can tell by my accent, I'm German. We are seeing, and Germany is a little behind on digital. It has to learn a lot from India, right, to say it out very clearly. But suddenly there's even in local cities and governments, there's a discussion, what is the right learning platform? What is the right digital strategy? What is the right infrastructure here and there, right? Germany is a cash society, like India, historically speaking. Suddenly you're asked to please only pay with card, please only pay contactless. This was a real leapfrog in digitization. US and QR code, US and contactless wasn't very strong, right? Suddenly you're being asked to only pay contactless, right? QR codes are everywhere, right? So this is a fascinating transformation here, but we also have to build the tools for companies to use it, and it actually hits all sectors, right? To Anupam's point, I'm not aware of any sector that isn't impacted in a significant way, and those tools need to go very horizontal through the economy, and to help them, right? And it's not easy to adapt all those changes and also manage your finances at the same time, and manage your business and transform your restaurant. And so there's a lot going on, and we must make sure that we support business in this way, in an easy and simple and usable way. And that's what we're aiming with our tools.
Sure. In fact, my moderator just kind of got a poll. So folks who are watching, you can just reply to the poll. But in the meantime, Matthias, just wanted to understand from your side, specifically keeping in mind e-commerce as say a specific domain. How are you seeing that domain kind of shaping up? Is it at the path of recovery? I mean, in general, that's probably one of the things that we wanted to understand from the global perspective. How is the entire recovery path happening?
Oh, there's a lot happening, right? And if I'm speaking commerce, digital commerce, of course, and I'm sure Anupam will have even more on that. We are seeing a step change again, right? So, for example, in India. This is the first time that high percentages of people in the older groups have used e-commerce really and have tried it, right? There's data we're seeing in the US that 2/3 of households have now actually done the order of fresh goods. This is an unprecedented market penetration, right? We haven't seen before. Food orders, same things, right? Learning and so in terms of e-commerce, there is a step change happening, and yes, there is probably fingers crossed with vaccinations, other things. There will be a little bit more of term of normal shops coming again, but the step change will stay, right? And we're leapfrogging those economies. So yes, e-commerce is up, and e-commerce is working very well, and both new consumer segments and new usage patterns are there, and they're there to stay.
Okay, great. So Anupam, before we come to you for the same thing, the poll actually indicates something which is where I'd probably like to have a comment from your side. So a lot of people think it this way that because of this entire thing of the pandemic, digital payments are just helping us in terms of getting or tapping into the global market. So obviously people are much more interested to understand how the entire e-commerce is kind of shaping up globally. And if you can give us flavors with various geographies, I think that'll be great.
Yeah, I think if you look at the trend line, Sagar, China was the first one that was hit, and China is the manufacturing hub literally for the world. So we saw China come down significantly somewhere in the February timeframe. Everything was stopped. And then it was the first one to recover as well. So very quickly, you saw the shortages of face masks. You saw the shortages of anything that was relating to germs, right? You couldn't find any alcohol to clean your surfaces with, to wash your hands with. All of those were in short supply, but very quickly China came back. March-April timeframe, we saw a resurgence of China to the point where we saw e-commerce transactions in Q3 bypassing anything we've seen before. So it was almost like a Black Friday. Black Friday is the key day in the United States where most people go shop for Cyber Monday. We almost saw that kind of traffic in Q3 every day because the stimulus checks were coming in, right, from the United States government and other governments. So people had the money to spend. They were buying it online because they couldn't really go out and spend the money. So you saw them either buying it cross-border or you saw them buying locally. So we actually found that 60% of the people who were interacting 42% online moved up to 60% of all their purchases to online. While overall economy has shrunk, the overall share of e-commerce within the shrinking economy has grown to almost, I would make it akin to our demonetization moment in what we had in India. Right, it is going to set a new level. I feel we are 5 years ahead of e-commerce, because of COVID. I feel it is here to stay. We will find a new normal, but it is not going back to the previous days. So we're all going to, get the benefit, if you will. This tide will lift all the boats high. So I certainly feel there is, great strides e-commerce has made. The challenges are also becoming quite vivid now. So if you look at risk, right, I think it's a very important factor that people have to take into account, given small merchants, consumers who've never used e-commerce are now coming and using e-commerce. So we have to do everything possible to keep these small merchants to continue to do e-commerce. Otherwise, one bad experience and they will go back to their old ways, right? So the onus is on us to ensure that these guys continue to thrive in this new world. Beyond that, I mean, there's so many trends that we are seeing. It'll take a long time to describe them. But one key thing I learned, and I was talking to a lot of merchants, we had moved to an inventory system called just in time, right? Just bring the inventory just when you need it, not anything before. This is the Japanese Kanban way of doing things. So that has moved away from just in time to just in case. What if something happens, right? What if I cannot get the next inventory going through? So that's a very, very interesting twist I'm seeing in the merchants, and how these merchants will deal with e-commerce as they move ahead. It'll be very interesting to see.
Very interesting insights coming from you, Anupam. In fact, one of the things regarding risk is something that we focused in our keynote. Harshal, introduced the entire trusted badge concept that we launched for the merchants who are using the Razorpay checkout, just to make sure that consumers who are coming online for the first time can actually get that wow experience and should not be getting that that unwanted experience, so that they can they can be away from the digital payments, for a longer duration. I will probably, ask this question to you, Anupam, that, we understand all of it. It's pretty much similar to, what's happening in India. There are some correlations that we can figure out. But what should be the strategy going forward for businesses? And probably, that's one of the things that a lot of businesses would want to understand. And specifically, if you're talking about, say a year, say 2021, what should the businesses do in 2021?
So maybe I can address at least a few of these, right? I mean, so we've, I think, established that e-commerce is here to stay. The lines between offline and online are blurring, and people will want to transact more online than offline. However, there is a trend of O2O, meaning online to offline as well, meaning buy online but pick up in store, right? Some mix of online and offline. So that's one part I think that all the merchants should be ready for, right? And it allows them to give an experience which is digital as well as real, right? So I think that's one part. The other part I think is also very important, is just for merchants to have an omni-channel approach to how they approach their customers. Whether I'll talk a little bit. Here's a plug for you, Matthias, about what we call dropshippers. And these are people who don't have inventory, right? They're buying things off of a third party, typically from China, and they're advertising on Facebook, and they're curating that inventory, and they're selling it online to people around the world. And so they curate very specific types of inventories, right? And we've seen these drop shippers, is what we call them, because they don't own inventories. This business model explode over the last few months. Whether it is selling razors. My son just bought a razor from looking at a Facebook page, etc., etc. So that's one thing. The other thing I also want to add is, I think the checkout experience for a consumer has to be very carefully looked at. There is some statistic I was reading the other day. 80% of shopping carts or more are abandoned by consumers because something went wrong, right? Whether it's your two-factor authentication in India, whether it is you're on a mobile phone, something drops. So we really have to, again, going back to the point, give our customers the best possible experience. And that means taking care of the risk aspects, but also the convenience aspect and comfort aspect for the consumers. And the third piece I would say is, I think there are if you look at marketplaces such as Amazon or eBay and so on and so forth, a lot of them are doing phenomenally well. But there is also this whole new phenomenon of merchants going to people who build their online presence for them, by a click of a button. Merchants like Shopify, which is now probably the most valuable Canadian company in the world. These people allow you to create, your online presence in a matter of minutes and you can start accepting payment online. So those would be some of the things that I would leave the audience with.
And I would say, if I may add, there is an important angle for partnerships here, right? And Anupam called out a few topics here, right? And this includes also smaller companies. So look for friends, look for partnerships, look for tools out there. A lot of it is possible, and there's maybe less competition if you're teaming up with other companies than you would think. For example, we are working on a larger scale. Speaking of that side of the house, right? Our side of the house. Of course, we work very closely with PayPal to facilitate those payments and make it happen. We work with Shopify to promote those shops, right? So both companies that Anupam mentioned here, we work very closely with to provide those simplified experiences that allow hundreds of millions and 180 million of shoppers in our case and small SMB businesses to secure those businesses and make sure they have tools to run their business in a wonderful, simple, and secure way. And it's not all perfect. We have work to do in this space, right? To be very clear. But that's also our responsibility in those times, right? And also the great opportunity in those times. And if you're seeing if you're looking at societies, right, that we talk about, India has a statistical, the number for cash usage in India is like 96% or something like that. US is maybe 65, 66, UK 50 something, right? I'm sure when we pull the data again now in India, and the data will come out sometime in early 2021, those numbers will have shifted a lot. But we must stay there, we should stay there, and this also requires us to have all the right experiences. And it's also why, for example, we as Facebook invest in Facebook Pay and FB Pay to make sure those things stay. There's tools like WhatsApp for Business, which are great usage. There's other tools, not just there. There's companies out there. Use the tools you have at your hands, right, on that side, and stay on the digital space. And certainly companies like PayPal, like us and others, are providing those tools. There's a great wealth out there to use them. And it's a smart thing of those businesses to use those tools. Helps them to secure their business, right? And the last comment I'd make, there's an interesting trend, what Anupam said, not just on the supply chain side, but even on very local businesses, right? I'm calling in here from New York, and you see a lot of local business, community strength and delivery services, right? The way they're organizing it is hyper local on many dimensions. So it's an interesting story between all the global topic, and you're buying from Chinese merchants and from the US and from Europe, go all over the place. We also have a strong trend to go hyper local here. It's interesting, it's fascinating what we're seeing here.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things, Matthias, that you mentioned regarding partnerships is something that we saw that a lot of businesses or a lot of partnership opportunities kind of came in during these times, and in fact, one of them is where we got a chance to power payments for NGOs and the entire Facebook fundraising and donations platform as well. So that was also something.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so we realized that there are a lot of opportunities which are going to come in, and probably on that front, I am assuming that there is definitely a scope of new innovations, right? And that's what probably both of you kind of got into. So now just quickly focusing towards probably one last topic, and this one is slightly India specific. And I mean, obviously we are getting a huge amount of people kind of just chanting for India being the biggest market. So obviously wanted to understand from you both on what's the take on the Indian market. How do you see that at an overall level?
Fascinating market, right? And you saw make investments in India earlier this year, right? You saw us. We are very happy. We have the WhatsApp Pay system launched and live now. right? And we continue to see a lot of interesting things happening in India. I would also encourage all the entrepreneurs maybe listening right now, keep innovating. Right. There's a lot yet to be solved and done to make payments more accessible, more easy, make commerce easier, right? And make sure that more people have access to all those great tools. Something we care deeply about with our initiative, something PayPal cares deeply about, right? And something a lot of Indian entrepreneurs can help do, including Razorpay, but also some of the newer and smaller companies coming out there. You're no longer a startup anyway. Right, with Razorpay, it's a big company now, and very successful. But there's a lot of stuff and topics that can be innovated from access tools, risk tools, payments, the whole infrastructure and the value chain, just focusing on that area, right? And India has a breadth of entrepreneurs and companies and ecosystems and markets. There's also an aspect I would argue is important, and that's also we want to partner and work more with the regulatory side. India has actually also shown that there can be a lot of innovation regulation side, right? That's also quite important, and this is something also as Facebook we embrace and absolutely support, and we think it's a good thing to have a strong regulatory framework, and you work in that. And so regulation and the parts is also a big role. And the last aspect I would say in this context is also that we should also, again, make sure we collaborate on those topics and then also potentially show where they could go outside. So I think Indian businesses have an opportunity to go also outside of India, right? So far, very inward focused, and potentially can go more outside soon. You guys are ready for prime time.
Ready for prime time. Anupam, your take on it?
Look, I think India has leapfrogged most countries when it comes to payments. I feel the technology that we have developed in India should be the envy of the world, and indeed is in certain cases. If you look at, for example, UPI, I see now around the world everybody's trying to follow the UPI bandwagon, so to speak, instant bank transfer, right? So whether it is FastPay in Singapore, or PromptPay in Thailand, or Pix in Brazil, these are all replicas, if you will, of what UPI is in India. And I think that continued sort of focus on the regulatory space that Matthias referred to, whether RBI opening up its sandbox environment and really helping drive innovation, I think would be key. One thing I would also add is, we are seeing that as technologies such as UPI take the forefront, I think the ability to transfer and move money from point A to point B will become a commodity, right? Just accepting payments and sending payments is not where it's going to be. The action is going to be on value-added services on top of managing and moving money.
That probably should be a commodity. Just telling that one, right?
That's right.
It actually should be.
I agree. I think it's high time where we start democratizing financial services. It should not be expensive for people to move and manage their money. It should be a right, and it should be a democracy in my mind, as opposed to a focus on the privileged few. I think we're very focused on that as PayPal as a company. So I think the long story short, India is in the forefront of technology. I think companies, payment players all need a stable, forward-looking regulatory environment and framework that is predictable in nature. I think that's where the government is also headed. You need a lot of unicorns like Razorpay partnering with others. Hopefully, this PayPal. I don't know if you've announced that, Sagar, yet or not. But just
please go ahead.
Please go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, we've already done, but yeah, please go ahead.
So we've just announced a partnership where any merchant sitting in India who's using Razorpay will now have access to all of the consumers worldwide of PayPal. So we've just made that announcement. Again, I believe it is about partnerships, is coming together and working with each other.
Congratulations, guys.
Ecosystem. Sorry, Matthias?
I said, congratulations, guys. That's a good one, right? Very, very cool for the Indian market, for the economy, and democratizing those tools, right? As you said, and something we obviously also care a lot about, right? And the opportunity is sky high. We have at the moment 2.7 billion monthly consumers and about 180 million monthly merchants on there. and on our platforms. And this is a huge opportunity to democratize access to those financial instruments and make them much more ubiquitous, and then build those value-added services that Anupam really talks about, and make sure we keep digitizing both for safety, but also for the benefit of growth and opportunity. The plan democratize those tools. So yes, indeed, very important. +1.
There you go.
Great. In fact, we are also looking forward to the entire thing, because it's like you folks mentioned that this is more or less the opportunity for businesses to innovate, and that's where we are trying to help those businesses just to make sure that their finances are frictionless. So that's probably on our side. I believe we're kind of running out of time, so would love to firstly thank you, both of you. I think you both have joined at very odd times in your respective time zones. Thank you for doing this. People have actually poured their love over chat, and feel free to actually check out the other sessions. But thank you so much, Anupam. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for doing this, and we hope that we would, as India, we would actually be able to live up to the expectation that people have from the innovation perspective. Thank you so much, folks.
Thanks,
No doubt you will. Thank you, Sagar.
Take
Thank
care.
you.